All right, guys, just because I got a 2025 Ram 1500 RHO coming in doesn't mean I'm done with the Raptor community. I've been working on something the past few weeks, and I'm pretty excited to finally share this with you guys. Here's my Project Raptor. So I found a very nostalgic special truck, to me at least. It's a 2010 Ford F-150 Raptor. This was a barn find. It's actually been in a barn for about 5 years. I bought this from the original owner, and it's a weird random story, but a small world. I actually know the guy a little bit. I just happened to see this thing on Marketplace, and he's the original owner, and in fact, this was one of the first 100 Raptors ever built. So this truck is not perfect in any way. In fact, it's been a lot of work. This thing, imagine the issues sitting for about 5 years. Number one, a cat, a mouse, I don't know, a rat got into the wire harness. Just a freaking disaster. I've been working every moment of free time I have to get this thing where not only would it go down the road, to get the truck to actually start. And we've made a lot of progress. Wire harness issues, four-wheel drive didn't work, ABS didn't work, TPMS didn't work, air conditioning didn't work, parking brake issues, tire issues, wheel bearing issues, vacuum issues, coolant issues. Every fluid imagine inside of this thing was shot. The interior was a mess, mice issues and all. We've literally got almost everything functioning on this truck right now. Why I'm sharing this is I'm gonna fix this thing all up, and I'm not entirely sure what direction I wanna go with this. I'd be curious for you guys to leave your comments down below. What should I do with this thing? So I've got some kind of crazy ideas, and I'd be curious to see what you guys think. Leave your comments down below what I should do with this truck. One of the ideas I've thought is, how cool would this be to do a Godzilla swap? I've been looking into this a little bit. This truck actually came with the 5.4, being this was one of the first Raptors. There's not many of the Super Cab Raptors made, and of the first trucks made, they all had the 5.4s. And surprisingly, the mileage that's on this truck, for people ripping on the 5.4, believe me, I've had 5.4s and I've had problems with several of them. This thing's incredible. This thing's got 160,000 miles on it. And it's basically all original transmission, original transfer case, original axles, CV joints, four-wheel drive system. The only thing that's had to be replaced on the four-wheel drive system is literally the transfer case actuator, which if you are a Ford truck owner, you know they have problematic issues with the IWEs. So in this video, I'm gonna have kind of a documentation of what I had to fix, but I kind of wanna show you now where I'm at, and I'm gonna call stage one right now of this process. It's going down the road 98% mechanically decent. So anyhow, leave your comments down below on what you think I should do with this thing. Keep it stock suspension? Do I go crazy with this thing, or just slight upgrades? I'm trying to keep the nostalgia of this truck, like simple things. Like I almost want to keep the OG 2010-11 rims. I don't even want to upgrade to the newer style, just to keep some of the nostalgia to the SVT trucks back then. Bumpers, and if I was going to do an engine upgrade, I'm not interested in an LS swap. It would be Coyote or Godzilla, but I'm really leaning towards the Godzilla just because how cool that is. This truck literally had the original spark plugs at 160,000 miles. Let me just show you now where I'm at in the current part of this process. Number one, look at that. You notice the harness there? I had to redo that entire harness that went down the frame. And if you notice the frame, it's got a lot of rust. That's the second part of the process. Right now in this first stage has been get this thing mechanically going down the road. I also had to replace, notice the ABS sensor, had to put a new ABS sensor. Other thing I had to replace, diff cover. The stock diff cover was so shot, there was no point even doing a rear diff fluid change. Look at that, even a matching spare that's never even been used, still got the original tread. But little things like this, bumper is shot. All my lights work. Tires are not in the best shape, but check out the rust. This will be the next step of this process. I'm gonna be going through and doing this whole thing. Leaf springs seem to be in good shape. They're not flattened out. Shocks are in pretty rough shape, unfortunately. I'm thinking about making some upgrades there. You can kind of see the new parking brake. I had to put a new parking brake line there. Now, what does a old school Gen 1 look like? This one's actually in pretty good shape. Surprisingly, with the amount of miles on this thing, the lumbar in the seats looks pretty decent. It's not broken down. It's in good shape. Typical little things like the steering wheel wearing down here. That's pretty common. But call me crazy, I actually prefer, in a lot of ways, the Gen 1 interior more than the Gen 2. Here's another thing that didn't work when I got this truck. This suicide door didn't work. Got that working, had to pull it apart. Just been cleaning up the interior. I mean, it still needs a little bit of work, but rear window works, sunroof works, all interior lights work. What's it sound like? Actually, not bad. Drivetrain sound doesn't sound too bad. I don't notice any roller issues. Everything seems decent. It needs some work though. Lower fascia is kind of beat up. Let's look under the hood of this thing. Under hood look. 5.4 Triton. Not in terrible shape. New battery. Went through the fuses, believe it or not. Everybody talks about fuse 27 needing a relocation. It wasn't in bad shape. Pulled out the whole cooling system. Did a long flush. Took forever. New air filter, of course. Flushed the power steering fluid. New spark plugs. Man, that was easy. I couldn't believe actually how easy that was. But everything is in pretty decent shape. Like stuff like this, I'll take off over time and fix. What's cool about the Gen 1s is just how simple they are. There's just not a lot of things that you really need to work on. Other things that I like about the Gen 1 versus Gen 2 and 3, call me crazy, I actually prefer the look of these boards more than the other generation trucks. Here's something I also thought was really cool. Check out the condition of this exhaust system. Look at this thing. Now, to some that might not be a big deal, but a truck that's 15 years old in Michigan, there's minimum rust on the exhaust system. So they must use a pretty decent grade of exhaust. But now we get into the rocker panels, man, that's a whole different story. These rocker panels are shot. We're gonna fix this whole thing. I'm gonna go through that. That's gonna be another part of this whole process. But I mean, this truck's got good bones. That stuff is all easily fixable. I've already talked to some guys. We're just trying to decide next, what is the appropriate next steps with this truck? How crazy do we go? Another thing a lot of people might not know, there's a big craze right now with the regular cab short bed F-150s. People like the short wheelbase because these are like these little fun trucks that are super capable. Guess what? Wheelbase on this is not much different than the new regular cab short bed, because this is a 5.5 foot bed, not a 6.5 foot bed, and you have a super cab, not a regular cab. When you take into account the 1 foot less here, plus the original cab door, your wheelbase, guys, it's literally like a modern one of these short bed trucks. But the cool part is you can actually put some kids back here. That's what I dig about this more than the new regular cabs, which also makes me think, how sweet would it be to make this a supercharged monster on the street, a total sleeper, but yet it's still got the SVT bones. Lastly, how many times, guys, have I done this loop? Well, you know where I'm at. You've seen videos before. I feel like I got to do a loop in this truck that I've done with other trucks. Let's see what a 15-year-old Raptor with 162,000 miles will do for fuel economy. I've done spark plugs, air filters, went through all the fluids. I'm good to go. I'll be curious. We're going to reset this right now. Look at the mileage. I'm going to reset trip A. We're going to reset our fuel economy. Let's go for a loop right now. Look at that beauty right there. So what's funny about these older trucks, they're so simple. There's no drive modes with a Gen 1 Raptor. It's just drive it, push the accelerator. That is what it is. The other thing I like about the old Raptor is the white gauges. If you grew up in the age that I did, the white gauges were so stinking cool. And I still like that because they actually got rid of that in years to come. But this thing's so basic, it doesn't even have a backup camera. No drive modes, no backup cameras. I mean, this is a simple truck. But what's cool is this 6-speed trans, it goes through the gears really smoothly. Does it have the power of a modern EcoBoost Raptor? Not even close. I mean, not even close. This thing feels like an absolute slug compared to a modern F-150. But during the time, it was okay. It wasn't anything to write home about, but it was okay. So one of the things you guys would probably hear me talk about in the past is my dislike for a lot of the modern V8s because they just don't make any low-end power. I remember when the 5.0 Coyote came out in 2011, I had a 2010 F-150 with the 5.4, and a buddy of mine got a 2011 with the 5.0, and we were gonna pull an enclosed trailer from Michigan to Wyoming in the wintertime. We're all excited to try out this brand new truck. By the time we got to North Dakota, I said I would never wanna own a 5.0 Coyote because this thing literally made no power unless you rev it to the moon. And is the power good at that point? For sure. It was really good. But it was so annoying that you had to rev it to 4,000 RPMs just to do anything. The new Coyote is way, way better than the old one. But these old engines, I swear, they still make such great power at the low RPMs versus some of the modern V8s. That's one of the reasons I really dig the new 7.3 Godzilla. That motor makes really good power at low RPMs. It feels like a big block, well, because it is. So we're gonna get up to speed here. We got a little bit of construction in this area where we normally do our loops, which is gonna mess us up from what we've done in the past. But it should be able to still do 70 once we get past this little short area and just kind of compare. So unfortunately, I don't have an instantaneous readout to look at fuel economy, but here's what I would say. This thing's got good low end power, even though the thing doesn't put out great specs for power, but it's very comfortable going down the road, even just being a basic 5.4. You know, after having a Cummins with a 6-speed the past year, I appreciate the performance of these 10-speed transmissions and the fuel economy. I mean, it's so noticeable. With that being said, there's also something peaceful and relaxing about these 6-speed transmissions. Yes, you give up performance and fuel economy, but man, it's chill going down the road. And I also came to really appreciate that. And this also, driving this truck, makes me appreciate just a simple V8 going down the highway. I think these are like absolute smooth cruisers. I'm not gonna do a decibel meter reading today for a few reasons. Number one, these tires are chopped to death and they're like 8 years old, they're shot. There's not even a point in trying to do that today until I get the suspension fixed and get new tires on. Then we'll really see how much improvement in sound deadening there is in modern vehicles versus a 15-year-old truck like this. But in all honesty, this truck is great. It's a fun truck to drive. I actually am a fan of this interior more than the 17 to 20 Raptor inside. You get more technology in a 17 to 20 Raptor. I don't know, I like the layout of this interior a little bit more, but that's just me. Okay, gonna get off at our halfway point. So some things I noticed that's also funny, being this is old school, this thing doesn't have start-stop technology at the stoplight, so you don't get that fuel economy. It also doesn't have blind spot indicators. It doesn't have hands-free driving, adaptive cruise. I mean, this thing is simple. But the nice thing about simple trucks like this, simple to work on, simple to repair, and lower cost. This truck needs a windshield. A windshield in a truck like this will be less than $200 maybe. A windshield in a new truck with adaptive cruise, lane assist, and the radar technology built in, $1,000 windshield. So it's stuff like that where I can go and appreciate an old school truck with simple technology. But just getting back on the highway, just look at this, under 2,200 RPMs. No problem. Okay, 70 miles an hour. There's your RPMs. Just under 2,000 RPMs. I'm gonna say 1950 range, 1900. But that's it, guys. Smooth cruising, and only gonna get better once I do the suspension upgrades and new tires. What I love about going these old V8s, I just climbed that grade, which you've seen me do with other trucks. No downshifting at all. Being old school, no start stop. All the gauges look good. Temps idling really good. No vibration. Nothing weird in the vehicle. Steering feels actually really tight. Shocking, 160,000 miles for a Ford. Not bad, right? Brakes, pedal feel, steering feel. These seats are incredibly comfortable. I would put them there right up with my 21 Raptor. I thought those seats were amazing as well. But air conditioning's working well. I mean, how basic and funny is this? No dual climate control, no backup screen. Hilarious, but you know what? It works, and it works good. Got the old school SVT, just very cool. Okay, we're gonna pull right back in and see what we got for fuel economy for this loop. There we go, 16.3. You can see 18.1 miles is what it registered for this loop. All right, guys, considering this truck is 15 years old, been sitting for 5 years, still could probably use fluids updated in the trans, new tires. Who knows if there's rust on the brake dragging. 16.3 miles per gallon, I don't think is bad, especially given it's the 5.4 Triton, which is not a great engine. Compare that to some of the other trucks I've done loops on, that's pretty good. I mean, to be fair, there's probably still some 4 or 5-year-old fuel left in the tank. I tried to drain it as much as I could, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some residual. So give me your comments and thoughts on what you guys think I should do with this truck. So far, I'm super impressed. I think I could do a lot of fun stuff with this. There's still a lot of mods left to go. We're gonna dabble into the suspension, possibly do some rim upgrades. Not sure what performance upgrades I'm gonna do quite yet. Might do some newer LED projector headlights from the 13 and newer truck. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with this truck.